there, Sam. It's great to see you again.
Hey, Lily. Great as always to see you.
Well, my meadow is in its first year of growth. I just planted my meadow in June, and I am so excited seeing all the little grasses and flowers come up. I was wondering, what things do I need to watch out for during my first year of maintenance in my meadow?
Oh, great. I'm glad you've got a good crop of baby plants growing. So I'll remind you that there's a bunch of information on that topic on our Restoration Science Center website. We've got a guide to help walk you through that process, help you identify the common weeds you're going to see here in Central New York. And we're all over social media talking about this stuff too. So I want to remind you about that. But it's important to talk about weed pressure in your meadow. Weeds can come in by birds dropping seeds in. Weeds also come in from the edges, and that's really important. Do you remember we were talking about the shape of your meadow a while back? You said this is your front lawn. So what's the general shape of it? Is it a big block? Is it long and thin? What do you think?
Well, it's about shaped like my house, so it's nice and square.
Okay, so a big blocky meadow, that makes things easy.
I do remember us talking about that.
That's really important because you see that, you know what? I got a better way to explain this. I'll be right back.
Where does he keep going? How does he do that?
Huh. Singed a little. Anyway, Lily, so I want to explain. If you have a long rectangular meadow, like this, there's a whole lot of surface area with plants, weeds, pushing in from the edges. And that problem will be a lot worse in a rectangular meadow compared to the more square meadow like you have at your house, where there is less surface area compared to the volume of your meadow. So less weed pressure pushing in from the edges. Does that make sense? All right, well,
Well, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate that. I was wondering, when I'm taking care of these weeds, should I just pull them out like I do when I'm weeding my garden?
it's a very good question. So weeds that come in the perimeter of a meadow, species like white clover, will spread rhizomatously. They form a mat on the ground. Many plants do this. Canada goldenrod spreads rhizomatously as well. Pulling those might not really do anything because you're probably not going to get the whole root that the plant is growing in, and that will just cause future problems. Other plants that don't have these mat-forming growth habits, you can pull them. Garlic mustard's one example. You can easily pull garlic mustard in a meadow. So it really depends on the plant species. It depends on how old that plant is and how much of it there is. If there's a ton of little plants for you to pull, that might take forever, and you might want to think about a different method like cutting them. Cutting the seeds off of annual plants prevents them from seeding the next year. Even using spot treatment of herbicide, depending on your situation and the sensitivity of your site. Remember, I don't want you using herbicide yet. You got to get licensed. But if you were to consider using targeted herbicide applications on weeds you can't pull or can't cut, that is one of the options. Spotted knapweed, for example, it's a very problematic plant around here, very tough to pull. That's one that you might consider using a different technique like aggressive cutting or herbicide.
Okay, well, that's good to think about. So, aside from just cutting weeds, you've talked about cutting the meadow in general before, so when do I even need to do that?
Great question. The first year of a meadow's growth is very important. This is when the plants are the most sensitive. They're young, they're building out their roots, and you need to help steward them along. Some of the plants grow a lot faster than others. I think we put some perennial ryegrasses in your meadow, and those will grow much faster than the little blue stems that I think are also in your meadow. And what we want to make sure we do is create a situation where all of the plants, no matter how big they are, get enough light. So generally, I tell people when your meadow gets to about knee height, that's 18 or so inches, give it a cut back to maybe 8 or 10 inches. You know, what you're doing is cutting the top matter off of weeds that have seeds up there, so you're preventing them from producing more seeds. You're cutting back some of the plants really to the top of the lowest growing plants. And that's, could be 4 or 5 inches, usually 8 to 10 is safe. You don't want to cut too low because you could damage a lot of your plants. That way they get just enough light and they're not going to be overtaken by these faster growing species.
Gotcha. Okay, so if I'm cutting my meadow, I own a lawnmower, so how am I going to cut it back to 8 to 10 inches? I don't think I can do that.
Great question. Most residential lawnmowers do not go higher than 4 or 5 inches. Now, when you're cutting back the meadow in this way, this is really only something you have to do in the first year or two. And you're only going to have to do it around here maybe once, maybe 2 or 3 times maximum. So, in this situation, for your 1/4 acre meadow, you could explore using a weed whacker. It's a great core workout. You could hire someone who has a tractor with an implement like a bush hog on it. It's the name of basically a giant lawnmower, but you can raise it up several feet instead of a few inches. And that way you can take care of this meadow without risking cutting it too short and damaging a lot of these plants. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better. I might be able to even sell my lawnmower, which would be awesome.
That would be great. Let's encourage more of that.
Yeah. So aside from just like maintenance itself, how am I going to manage my own expectations when it comes to my meadow? Because parts of my meadow have come up really nice and dense, but other parts haven't, and I don't know, I keep starting to freak out, like, oh my god, it's not growing properly, and I just need to have some comfort, I think.
Don't worry, I'm here to help. Growing pains are real. We are not establishing a lawn. We are establishing a plant community. And this is a plant community that takes more time to mature than a lawn, on the order of 2 or 3 years, depending on the mix of plants, maybe 5 to 7 years, until all of the plants are mature and producing seeds and at their expected size. In the first year or two, meadows might look really ugly. And it might be the ugly duckling situation where it grows up to be a beautiful swan, but the first year or two can look messy. Areas can look denser than others. There could be bare patches. There could be unevenness in the vegetation. That's normal. That's how these systems develop. And what I would expect is maybe in that sparse area, maybe there was a big rainstorm and some seed got washed away, or maybe a little mouse ate a bunch of the seed. I don't know. Things happen. What you can do is throw a little extra seed on that from the seed mix you used, or you can get an extra bit of seed from a grass or something you really like. And I would wait until kind of mid-fall, early winter, when there's some freezing nights and warm days. And this is a really good time to overseed because it's cold enough where those seeds aren't going to germinate right away and then not make it through winter. But this little bit of frost heaving with warm days and freezing nights will help work those seeds into the soil exactly where they want to be. And that's for your upland site. For a wet site, we might not do it that way, just to be clear. So, very easy, throw a little seed out, let it germinate next year, and you should be all set.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll see you again when my meadow is in its 2nd year of growth.
I feel like the 2nd season will be even better than the 1st.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Sam. See you soon.
See you, Lily.